if the Trump administration wins and it's able to block this enormous amount of funding to Harvard, not only will it wreck various research projects, but it will send a chill across higher education in America.
It is Kate Borsett, the evening edition on Times Radio, and it is the Trump Dump, our nightly dose of the goings-on over in the United States, particularly as far as politics goes. In a little while, we'll actually look at the 6-month anniversary of Trump 2.0. That's to come. Let's say hello to David Charter, who is the assistant US editor of The Times. David, hello to you.
Hello, Kate from Washington, D.C.
Hello to you. I think you've taken a 2-week break from Donald Trump, but you'll be pleased to know the news has not stopped in your absence, David. It's good to speak to you again. Shall we dig into some of today's top stories? President Trump has called a judge a total disaster and Trump-hating. She criticised arguments made by the White House lawyers defending Trump's $2.2 billion funding freeze of Harvard University. Judge Alison Burroughs suggested that the Trump administration acted in an ad hoc manner with no documentation and no procedure. Trump suggested grants were going to be cut to Harvard back in April of this year. Let's just remind ourselves.
She's very upset with Harvard. They have $53 billion in a fund, and yet they want more grants. And it looks like we're not going to be giving them any more grants, right, Linda? And, a grant is at our discretion, and they're really not behaving well. So it's too bad.
David, just remind us of Trump's issue with Harvard.
Yeah, he was talking to the Education Secretary, Linda McMahon, there, and the Trump administration set up a task force on anti-Semitism quite early on back in February, and it was investigating several university campuses where there'd been quite intense demonstrations, pro-Palestinian demonstrations, but also complaints that Jewish students were harassed and worse, received death threats. And the findings about Harvard were seized upon by the Trump administration, which really focused on this the oldest and the wealthiest university in America, which became really the test case for Trump's attempt to dictate to it changes to the way that it recruits and admits students, also staff, to take out the diversity and equity provisions that were used at this private university. And this ultimately resulted in a showdown that saw the Trump administration place a block on all federal grants for research at Harvard, amounting to $2.2 billion. All manner of scientific and medical research was put on hold. And the administration argued that this was because the money was not being spent correctly, because the students and the staff had been recruited in the wrong way, and Harvard was encouraging anti-Semitism. And so what we had today was a court hearing where both sides set out their case, really to have to have a summary judgment from the judge in their favour, rather than go through in a long and expensive trial. And the judge heard arguments, as I say, from both sides, that they basically both arguing they had an open and shut case, that the government saying, well, it's our money and we don't have to give it to Harvard University, we can give it to more deserving sources, recipients, and Harvard saying this is totally illegal, this money has been identified and agreed by Congress to go to Harvard University researchers.
If Harvard are unsuccessful here, or Trump is successful in blocking this money, what does that mean for Harvard? What are the wider implications? Will they be okay anyway? Or how will this affect the operation there?
It goes wider than Harvard, actually. It's being seen, as I say, as a test case for the way that the administration can dictate policies to private educational institutions. So the case has been joined by numerous other higher education colleges and institutions, as well as organizations, who are warning that if the Trump administration wins and it's able to block this enormous amount of funding to Harvard, not only will it wreck various research projects, but it will send a chill across higher education in America and deter many other researchers, and also wreck other research projects at other universities who are not on the face of it involved, but because higher education involves in a lot of collaboration and sharing of information, that the engine of innovation in America, if you like, the country that developed the internet, as well as numerous other Nobel Prize-winning researches into cancer treatments and other medical and scientific breakthroughs, will be disrupted by this. And the Trump administration argues it's got a massive endowment. It's got almost practically $53 billion worth of funds sitting in the bank just waiting to be used. Well, the university says it's not as simple as that. Most of that money is earmarked for specific projects and specific scholarships and that sort of thing that can't simply be reportioned out at a moment's notice. So a lot of the projects, they're saying at least 1,000 research projects will be scuppered if they lose this year's funding.
Yeah, and where does it go from here? What's the next stage in this?
So we're waiting to hear from this judge, who's a judge sitting in Boston, an Obama-appointed judge, as Trump has pointed out,
yes,
who has already intervened in a different kind of related case where the Trump administration tried to stop Harvard from recruiting foreign students. Well, that was blocked by this judge in an earlier case, in an earlier hearing. Trump says that this judge is biased against me, and so she's obviously going to fine for Harvard, and we will appeal it immediately. And so what that means is it goes up to the appeal courts. You can see eventually this may well be the sort of case that lands before the Supreme Court. No, there is a 6-3 conservative advantage for among the 9 judges on the Supreme Court. Doesn't always mean they fine for Trump, but he's been having a string of wins at that court months.
All right, let's move